All right, it says we're live. Let's double check. And
looks like we are.
Oh, you're seeing the broadcast online?
Yeah, it says live on the corner of it.
Yep, up on the corner it says live.
Okay, excellent. Okay, perfect. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Hey, welcome to the Killer Frogs, the podcast all about TCU athletics from the fans' point of view. And we have somebody who didn't mute their YouTube.
All right, well,
who was that?
All right. Hey, welcome to the Killer Frogs, the podcast.
Well, wait a minute until somebody decides to mute their YouTube.
Somebody who didn't mute their YouTube.
I'm getting that.
Wes?
What? Is this me again?
Welcome to the Killer Frogs, the podcast.
Is anyone watching on YouTube?
YouTube.
I don't know.
I don't have it on.
I don't have it on.
Up.
Dad's muted.
Is this me again? Welcome to the Killer Frogs, the podcast.
It's Wes. Wes, I had to mute your feed, man. That was like the worst feedback ever.
Don't you love that you can just master and mute this whole thing down?
Wes, you gotta turn off your YouTube then.
Wes, I had to mute your feed, man. That was like the worst.
Aye.
Yeah, 1 minute, Wes. Go ahead. Hey, welcome everybody for our live feed. Boy, we still haven't quite worked the kinks out of this one yet, but we'll get started in just a moment. But in the meantime,
should we just change the name of this podcast to Technical Difficulties?
I know, I swear. Ever since that one podcast, we just, that's why we drink on this podcast. I swear.
Have to.
I don't know. We'll figure this out in just a minute. It's all good. All right, Wes. Check every browser. Make sure YouTube is off. Just close the windows, close the tabs. He's drinking. I guess he's got it. Let's see. Let's unmute. All right, Wes.
Check every browser.
Looking around.
Wes,
Tell you what, Wes, we're gonna get started, and then we'll feed you back in once we figure out whether or not you've got it closed. You have it. You got it.
We're good.
Are you sure?
I'm going to cut my throat if we're not. Okay.
Okay. And we're back. Welcome to the Killer Frogs, the podcast all about TCU athletics from the fans' point of view. My name is Sean Fouché, and this is Season 4, Episode 15 for December 5th, 2017. And joining me on tonight's panel are our technical guru, Killer Frog Emeritus Wes Phelan. Wes, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm just technologically grooving along here. No, I'm doing good, Sean. You know what? The sun really didn't shine today. It was foggy down here in lovely Georgetown, but you know the sentiment. It's a new day. We got a great bowl game coming up. Wish we could have won, but you know what? I live to tell about it. So what?
That's true. We also have TCU Hall of Famer WC Nix. Hey, Deborah.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Doing pretty good. We also have recruiting expert Hunter Nix.
What's up, dudes?
Glad to see you out of the library. Did you get any studying done last week?
I did get a little bit done. It's about to be finals week, so fun stuff.
And we have the boss, Ryan Zeller. Hey, Ryan.
hello. Just booked the bowl package, so I'm doing well.
We'll definitely get into that in just a little bit. We're San Antonio bound, so it's going to be a fun one for sure. And let's just jump right into it because we all would rather talk about something a little bit happier, but we do have to go over the game that happened on Saturday and the unfortunate loss to the Oklahoma Sooners in the Big 12 championship game. This was a kind of a hard pill to swallow, and we were talking a little bit about this before we went live tonight. And Hunter, what were you saying when we got started on this about Oklahoma?
That it stinks that we lost, but I mean, I don't know if we play them 10 times, I don't know if we beat them but once or twice, maybe. They're really good, and I think they can beat anybody in the country right now. I think they could easily go in and win the national championship.
So you think they are the national championship team at this point?
I think they're going to play against – I think they'll win the semifinal, and then it's a toss-up from there.
I think they got a great shot too. I mean, you could – they beat us once, and I thought, all right, well, we'll see what our adjustments are and this and that, and they just kind of beat us a second time just as soundly as they beat us the first time. Mm-hmm. And, when it's twice like that, You know, I'm with Hunter. You know, they're just a better team this year.
I think.
Was it a matter? Just a quick question. Do you think it was a matter of the fact that they were just they just outmatched us, or do you think that the Frogs just didn't play a full 4 quarters of football?
Well, I mean, they did. It's probably a little of both, but you know, some days, you know, we're going against, and whether people like it or not, he's probably the best player in the country right now as far as quarterback spot for sure. I mean, he's done. So you got a quarterback and then the coach and him. They're on the same page. They got a great running back, receivers. Man, I think
he's an All-American. They've got a lot of weapons.
Well, their offensive line. I mean, their offensive line kind of shut us down. I mean, you know, usually we can get some guys free, or we do some blitzing and this and that. We get guys free, but we didn't get nobody free. I mean, they locked up on us pretty well, and I mean, we got close to getting there and stuff like that, and you know, and then their defense is playing better. I mean, it's playing better, and you know, I know we talked about before it started about some of the play calling in the second half, but you know, I just think Oklahoma did a good job.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. They were yesterday, as far as I'm concerned, they're the best team in the country, and you're right at WC about that line. We couldn't get anything going. Their line just flat created openings, and they protected that. I mean, y'all saw that little tweet we have of Baker Mayfield getting slammed down by the Little Rock police. I had that thing loaded up and ready to go at any second, hoping I would be able to use it 5 or 6 times yesterday. And I never got to use it, you know, and that little son of a gun got away every time. We didn't get close to him, and you know, they played a great game. Hats off to them.
You know what gets me is that when he scrambles, when he does decide to run, I didn't realize how fast he was.
Yeah, he's fast.
Because that sucker is fast. I mean, he took off and left us a couple times. I mean, you know, it took a safety or a corner to catch him.
Well, he didn't outrun the Little Rock police, man. We should have recruited one of their guys.
Exactly.
How many stars do they have?
You know, yeah, exactly.
Because you're right. You know, he got body slammed by 2 of them at once. I mean,
it was brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish we could have seen that at a Bo Center Banagoo yesterday. It was a little bittersweet, but Dubber, I think it hit the nail on the head. I think this is probably the best offensive line in the country. And we tried rush at 4, and they had 5 on the line, and they didn't need any more than 5. I mean, even Anderson was back there trying to chip people. He didn't even need to do that. So that freed him up to run out in the flat and gave Mayfield a perfect outlet just in case we had people covered downfield, which for the most part, outside of their tight end and some of the passes to Anderson, you know, Tejada did a great job yesterday, and Small did a pretty decent job yesterday. We didn't have Nick Orr for half of it, but other than just dropping a couple of beautiful passes right over the top, there's not much you could do about that, especially when you don't get any pressure on him.
No.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody talks about Baker. Don't get me wrong, because I do think he's the best quarterback in the country this year, and he's got that team believing that they're that good. But their skill position, and especially their offensive line, they are good. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know if he could do all what he's doing with that. You know, I'm just saying they're a top-notch line. I think they're the best. You know, I thought it in the first round when we played them, and I thought, well, it'd be good to see that second round and see what happens. But after seeing them against us a second time, I thought, you know, they're by far the best offensive line we saw.
Yeah.
And just best, you know, overall offensive package for sure. And then I think defense is what's happening. I kind of agree with everybody else. I think they're opportune, and I think they've gotten a little better. I think they've gotten a little better, and you know, and so. Hey, I tell you what, I'm a Big 12 guy, so I hope they win it all. I want them to bring the crown back.
I hope they too do as well, but what I saw out of their defense, I think we just missed too many opportunities to take advantage of what they were giving us. Yeah. And I don't know if that was just personnel situation or Cumbie just not trusting that we could pull off what needed to be done. I agree that their defense has gotten better, but I don't think this defense is. I'll put it this way: I think Oklahoma's offense is going to have to do what Oklahoma's offense does well in order to make it through the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I agree with you there.
You slow anybody down like what we were able to do most of the season.
No.
But they've got a great offense, and they've got an average defense or slightly above average defense, and that may be all they need.
But yeah, when you've got an offense that good who can hold on to the ball and score so many different ways, sometimes you don't need the best defense.
That's right.
I mean,
you get one pick or something, and then a couple punts
or a scoop and score.
You're ahead by 3 TDs.
Yep.
It can all happen very quick in that offense.
They're definitely going to be the weakest of the 4 defenses going into going into the college playoffs. But
I think,
but they're also going to be the strongest offense. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, they're going to pose a lot of matchup problems for a lot of people on offense.
Yep.
But Mayfield's got to do a better job of moving the ball around. He can't just rely on Anderson out in the flat to make it through the playoffs, or hope that his tight end is going to be covered. I don't know what the situation was yesterday at the game, but I mean, it was every single play you pretty much could call it. It's like, well, tight end's lined up in the slot. He's going to throw to the tight end if the wide receiver's covered, and the wide receiver was pretty much always covered, so he just threw to the tight end. I don't know why we couldn't cover that. And again, I don't know why Bosin is out there trying to cover a wide receiver. That just seems like a very weird mismatch.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're dropping Bosin back in that zone trying to cover a tight end, and that's, that should have been a linebacker, dude. I don't know whose call that was, but, obviously it didn't work, and they should have corrected it.
The one time it wasn't a tight end, that was
wide receiver.
Wide recirver.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah.
Talk about a mismatch. I mean, Bosin's good, but he ain't that good.
I mean, that wasn't his fault. So, I have a feeling somebody wasn't where they were supposed to be over the top. I think somebody probably got sucked into the middle of the field, and all of a sudden, felt sorry for Bosin because he's out there on the island. All of a sudden, it's like, well, he can't cover that guy. I mean, he didn't have a prayer. I mean, But I will say this. You sit there and you say he's got to do this, he's got to do that. I want to see somebody cover that tight end because I've watched the last few games of the season. I haven't seen anybody cover him yet. We did cover him for 2 games.
And that guy is going to get drafted. He's he's an All-American receiver. He was an All-Conference guy last year. I think he's ranked the number 2 tight end coming out next year. He's going to be a top 2-3 round draft pick. So it's not like it's some slouch out there.
No,
by no means am I trying to suggest he's a slouch.
He's like Jason Witten. I mean, he's got
good. On that offense, they've got about 5 guys who have got a chance to be drafted in the first round. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think that's pretty miraculous, honestly.
Yeah,
that
is.
Well, my deal is I kind of like, hey, why go do something different when you don't have to? I think they'll have different schemes and different things, but hey, we showed that we couldn't cover the tight end for whatever reason. I'd have kept going to him. That every time they went to him, it was a big play. I mean,
tight ends always in this 4-2-5 defense. Tight ends always kind of seem to be a bit of a kryptonite.
Yeah,
and that's why I was saying they're not going to be able to do the exact same thing against us that they're going to be able to do in the playoffs, because you got a lot of those defenses in the playoffs to play a 3-3, and they're going to have a guy who comes up and cheat, and they're going to try to chip him and get him off of his route or whatever they need to do, but. For whatever reason, we just did not adjust to that, and it's frustrating to see that.
Yeah. I don't think it went from lack of trying.
Whatever.
So anyway,
Wes.
I know Wes.
Wes keeps clicking on the YouTube link to watch it live, but doesn't mute it.
Look at himself.
Yeah.
Now, I sent this to my daughter so she could watch it, and she said she can't see anything, so I'm trying the link again. So that's all I'm doing. So.
Well, somebody's watching us, so we got a couple viewers. So, all right, well.
and then on the opposite side of the ball, I just think we were conservative. I mean, now wait, I say that. Let me rephrase that. They trust Kitty throwing 2 passes. I mean, they don't mind throwing the fade and just the streak. I mean, they'll throw that. They trust Kitty throwing that, and he threw it very well, I thought, Saturday. But
certainly in the first half he did.
But yeah, first half, and then but I just think that, and I don't mean it bad against Kenny or anybody. I think there's some limitations there that they were worried about. And so and I think Cumbie just totally steers away from it.
Yeah.
And you know, in a game like that, I just don't think you can steer away from it. Maybe you have to. Maybe it'd have been a lot worse if we'd wouldn't steered away from it. But there's a limitation. But I'll tell you this: our offensive line, Hicks never got going.
No,
I mean, Nick Hicks never. I mean, of course, he fumbled the first one, and I'm not. That happened. We still fought back from that, but we never had a big time running game presence that we've had at times this year.
Well, that was the biggest problem from my perspective in the first half. I mean, we couldn't get the running game going, but in the first half, it didn't seem like it was such a big deal, simply because of the fact that we pretty much tied offensively with Oklahoma in the first half. In fact, Kenny Hill had better numbers than Baker Mayfield did in the first half.
Yeah, he did.
But that scoop and score was the big difference going in half. We come back out of the second half, and I think in the first series, it was just pass. And they didn't even try to reestablish the run in the second half. And they just immediately just went away with it. And we started seeing, underneath passes and wide receiver screens and just these little short out routes and things like that just, Oklahoma was ready to take those things away. I mean, they're almost kind of, egging us on. It's like, try to go to the middle of the field because we're going to take everything else away from you. And for whatever reason,
you ought to tell Cumbie every once in a while, just stretch the field out. Even if you throw it out of bounds, make those guys run and think that you got the ability to do it. I mean, we never tried that. We kept throwing those wide receiver screens to wide receivers that can't block very well. And I don't know how many times we're going to have to do it before he figures out we're not very good at it. So I don't know. Just rack it up to a learning experience, and I hope he learned a lot. And looking forward to next year on maybe we can make it happen then.
Well, I think Dubber kind of hit the nail on the head with that, because I think this was just a situation maybe where they were just a little timid about trying to get Kenny to throw into the middle of the field, throw into traffic. We saw that a little bit with Baylor. He was doing that with Baylor, but then again, it's Baylor. It's not OU.
Yeah.
And, maybe it's just a situation where they just don't have confidence of him making that particular throw, especially when he's under pressure. I don't know what the situation was. I mean, he was hurried a lot on Saturday.
No doubt.
He had to work a lot on the run, and we weren't getting blocking out of the front. I don't know what was going on with the offense, but it just seemed like it was a tale of two halves, and they just didn't even show up out of the locker room in the second half.
Which is unusual because we're normally a second half team and a pretty good one. Mm-hmm. And, Patterson normally makes fantastic defensive adjustments at half, and whatever we did just didn't work. So,
well, I was Sean. When we came out the second half, I would like to see us run the ball a couple times just to try to establish something. But when we did what we did, and we were off the field so fast, it was just a big letdown, I thought. And then, of course, then they punt, and then they were back the other way so fast it wasn't even funny. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it was like, wow, what just happened? I mean, we had our chance. You kind of had it lined up like you wanted. You got within 7. You fought back that first half, and then all of a sudden, here we go. Second half, you get the ball first. You go down, score, field goal or a touchdown. You're getting points. You're getting closer. And it just fell apart. I mean, the second half it fell apart from when we first series on, basically. But that you got to give Oklahoma some credit too. They went in and made adjustments, and this time they made adjustments, and they did a good job, because I consider Patterson a defensive guru, and they did a good job.
Yeah,
they did a good job against it.
No question about it.
Yeah,
Ryan, you're talking too much. You need to tone it down so the rest of us can talk a little bit.
I know. Yeah. The only thing, I'm just sitting here thinking about the game too, and it just never felt like we were going to win it. So honestly, at the end of the game, I wasn't even tearing up or anything. They're just better than we are. And just like I think what WC said earlier before we were on air, there's no shame in losing to a team that's very likely to win the national championship.
No, not at all.
I still, the one loss I wish we could get back was Iowa State. I mean, that one we should not have lost.
Yep.
Well, but they lost to them too.
Yeah.
They beat OU.
Yeah, but this game reminded me a lot of the second half in the Iowa State game. I mean, we had opportunities in the Iowa State game, and they slipped through our fingers. Turnovers, penalties, just couldn't get anything going. And then with this game, same thing. I mean, the second half, we started seeing more penalties. We started seeing mental mistakes. We started seeing some very weird play calling. Never got the running game going again. Never even went back to the running game for the most part for the second half. And it was very frustrating to see because there were guys out there that were beating their matchups. I mean, Rager and Diarse were beating their guys almost all day long. Mm-hmm. And to see that constantly, and then to just see the little wide receiver screen to White or the wide receiver screen to Turpin, or let's run Kenny Hill on a fourth down and a few and he can't get the first down on a naked bootleg. It's just it was just really frustrating to see. And maybe that's just maybe Cumbie thought he had something, he saw something, and it just wasn't there. But it was consistently just a very frustrating second half.
Yeah, that was probably my biggest play right there, the fourth down deal. I'm an offensive lineman. If you can't get a half yard, come on, we put the big back in. Let's get a fullback or the tight end who plays the fullback spot. We got to be able to go get a half yard. And if we're dependent on a naked bootleg, and the bad thing for Kenny is you naked bootleg, you ain't gonna outrun him to the sideline. At some point he needed to turn up and go north and south, and you just never got there. And I'm not really blaming that play on him, but more than anything, I was like, man, we need a half yard. Why? Forget all that. We got a line that averaged 300 and something pounds. Let's line up and get a half yard. I mean, we and I understand they're good on the other side of the ball, but come on, that's my deal is we got to be able to do things like that. If we're going to be a good team, we need to be able to do that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, let me rephrase that. If we're going to be a great team, we need to be able to do things like that because I think we're a very good team right now.
I think we are too. I think we've got all the parts to be a great team. I just, like you said, it's just frustrating because we've kind of regressed in this game. We kind of regressed kind of back to what we did last year, which was, we play good for one half and that was it. And this game was the same thing. And it's just frustrating. We did that at Iowa State. We did it, up in Oklahoma. We did it in this game again. And so it's easy to kind of look at Oklahoma and go, man, they were just the absolute best team. But again, you take a look at that first half, we did really well in that first half. You take a look at the second half up in Norman, we did really good in that second half. We just couldn't overcome the mistakes in the first half up in Norman, and we couldn't overcome the mistakes we made in the second half in the championship game. Yeah. So for me, it's, we didn't play a full 4 quarters, which was, 2016 all over again. It's deja vu. And that was the most frustrating thing because it wasn't early in the season. It's the last game of the regular season. It's the championship game, and we end up doing that. And that's just, it's frustrating. But it happens, it's college football, right? So in the end, just to see where we went from last year to this year, everyone should be just ecstatic.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
You go back 9 months and say, look, yeah, we just lost to Georgia in the bowl game, but guess what? Next year, you guys are going to go 10-2 and a chance in the championship game against Oklahoma. How's that sound? Every single one of us would have been like, deal, we'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go from a losing season to a championship berth. I mean, that's fantastic. And now we get going back to San Antonio for the Alamo Bowl. So, overall, a very successful season.
Yeah, and consider what we have coming in for next year. I mean, some of the players and playmakers we've got coming in. I mean, my goodness, it's next year's going to be exciting. We've seen what Sean Robinson can do. Just briefly.
We get back our best running back.
Justin Roberts coming in. I mean,
and Anderson, they said it might be ready for the bowl game.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be a fun 2018.
Yeah, I think the only and Hunter, back me up on this. I think we lose 3 or 4 offensive linemen.
We lose
next year. Is that right?
Offensive lines where we lose a lot, but we also, because of injuries this year, Awagwu got to play a lot more this year. We got to develop a couple of younger guys who probably wouldn't have played this much except for injuries. So as much as that stinks about this year that we had guys get hurt, we ran a couple other guys out there too. So we've got some younger guys who have had some experience, and with Chris Thompson, I think we can, I think he's going to mold this group really well.
Hey, Hunter, what do you think about Anthony McKinney? You think he's going to contribute immediately?
I mean, yeah, he's ranked like the number 1 or 2 JUCO tackle in the country right now. So yeah, I think they're planning on him to come in and start.
What is it, 6'8", 350? I mean, he's huge.
He's huge. I think it's up there, if not 6'8", 350. I mean, he is every bit will be our biggest lineman whenever he gets here. And then, we just offered an O-lineman from Navarro who is also 6'6", 345 pounds. There's some big guys who we've offered and who have a chance to come out here in the next couple of weeks. And so, I don't know.
This is kind of going off course a little bit, but with the recent penalty on Ole Miss, where they announced that any player who's currently on the roster can immediately transfer and be eligible. Do you see anybody there that may be coming to TCU?
I don't know about that, just because, I mean, that's really, those are guys that weren't thought about until, the last week.
Yeah.
There was no telling that the NCAA was going to do that. So really, we didn't know. There very well could be, though. I mean, there's, that TCU's in the Big 12, so they don't have to sit out a year no matter what, since they're not transferring in conference. And we've got a lot of guys from the South, so there's always that chance.
Well, their quarterback's already announced that he's leaving.
Yep. Yeah, Shea Patterson, who's an ex-5-star guy. And with all the big recruits they've had over the past couple of years, there's some big names that could splash from this.
Yeah, it could be a treasure trove if we were able. Well, I guess we can't actively go out and recruit them, but they can. What's the rule on that? Can we say, hey, if you're
since they have announced that basically, I think it's kind of like UAB. Although UAB's was for different reasons, they shut down their program for a couple of years. But I think if it's an open transfer policy, I'm pretty sure we can recruit anyone there now.
Oh, okay.
But you never know how much they really want that. There's a lot of people who would still stay. There's
sure.
You just really don't know how that all works out. Especially, it's going to be kind of testy because those coaches are still there. Everything else. So it's going to be. We'll see how that all plays out in the next couple of weeks.
They made the interim coach their head coach, but they also, I think if I read it right, Ole Miss self-imposed a reduction of 11 scholarships, and the NCAA expanded it to 13. So that's 13 out of the 25 that you can't give starting this year. So that program is going to be pretty decimated and pretty down.
Forgot that $179,000 fine that they have to pay as well.
Yeah, well, that 170. Yeah, God, where did that come from? I mean, you got to wonder, how do they come up with that figure?
Who knows?
That's just incredible.
Last time I made a joke about a figure, it didn't go well, so we're not going to.
Yeah,
Ryan knows what I'm talking about.
I'll live for those one-liners.
I won't disappoint you next time.
You're not talking about Joe Barton, are you, by any chance?
No.
But Wes, I will say, I don't really know how many guys we could even take if we wanted to, just because we've already pretty much got a full class, and I would see us waiting for the next couple of weeks and seeing if we get any of those really big 5-star reach guys. Terrace Marshall, who is the wide receiver for Justin Rogers, Jalen Waddell, who is picking between us, Florida State, Bama, A&M. 2 of those teams have just lost their coaches. So,
sure.
It's kind of all up in the air right now.
But when there's a will, there's always a way. And
exactly.
Well, but this early signing period though is kind of a double-edged sword for a lot of those guys because they just announced it, and of course now we're right there at the early signing periods, where it's right around the corner. So, even if some of those guys do want to go, like Hunter said, there may not be scholarship opportunities for them to go anywhere.
No.
And so they, a lot of them may end up slipping. I mean, there are going to be scholarship opportunities, but it may not be at some of these major Power 5 schools that they may want to transfer to from Ole Miss.
They could go to UTEP, right?
Hey, they need players. They've got 0 commits this year. Go Miners.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Was that with a little sarcasm?
Hey, I'm just glad the old regime is out of there. That's all I'm going to say. Love Mike Price. I'm glad he came back to interim, but we'll see what gets brought in next.
Yeah, well, time will tell.
That's good, Hunter. Take the high road.
Yep.
Very nice. Well, let's talk a little bit about the bowl game. We do have a little bit of breaking recruiting news we'll get to in just a minute, but let's talk about this bowl game. Frogs go back to San Antonio. Last time, of course, we were there. Every Frog fan remembers that game against Oregon. The big comeback from behind and the just the Graham Kohlhausen show kind of a thing, and that was amazing. Fantastic game. Looking forward to another game though in San Antonio, and this is a game that should be a home field advantage for the Frogs because San Antonio comes out purple. And we're playing against Stanford, and from what I understand, Stanford does not travel well. What do you guys think about this Alamo Bowl?
I love it. I love it. It's a good opponent. It's a nationally known opponent. You know, and it's in our backyard. There's no reason for the Frogs not to show up in force. And you're like you said, Sean, San Antonio ought to be purple on December 28th.
And they somehow got ranked above us, so hopefully we can beat them and be in the top 10. But Yep.
Yeah, don't they have one extra loss than us?
They do. They're 9-4.
Yeah,
and they got ranked 13th. So
yeah. Well, I chastised some people today on the board that were trying to interject logic into the whole ranking system, and I was like, why are you guys even trying at this point?
Yeah.
There is no logic here.
Why waste your time?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess Stanford had a couple extra quality losses as opposed to TCU. So I don't know how you can say that when two of our quality losses were to one of the top two teams in the nation. But
a loss is a loss. I mean, this whole concept of quality losses.
Well, maybe it was body clock. Maybe that was it. Maybe they used the body clock criteria.
Okay.
I think that was it. Maybe that had worked.
I don't know. The Valero Alamo Bowl just tweeted out that Stanford, number 15 TCU, checks in as the number 6 ranking of all 40 bowl matchups. So
yeah, I mean, it should be a good one. Honestly, I'm glad. I'm honestly glad we got in this bowl rather than getting in the Cotton and playing UCF.
Yes,
I'd much rather play Stanford.
Is UCF going to the Cotton Bowl?
Yeah, I believe it's UCF in the Cotton Bowl.
UCF.
Oh my God.
USC. USC.
Yeah, let the Trojan play him. For goodness sakes. I mean, that was the thing. I mean, I love those kind of matchups. Those are great because as we all came from being the quote unquote mid-major, the underdogs, I love seeing those kind of matchups. But at the same time, for TCU, it's far better to play Stanford than to go to the Cotton Bowl and have to play UCF. As much as I love those guys, I hope they
actually no. UCF is not in the Cotton. They're in the Peach. Sorry.
Oh, they're in the Peach.
They're in the Peach against Auburn. But still, I mean, wherever I would much rather do that than what we're doing than playing against UCF.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I live in Arlington. As much as I love Arlington, I'd rather go to San Antonio on the 28th and play down there.
For sure.
San Antonio Christmas time is gorgeous. Hopefully it doesn't rain this time, though.
I love it.
Yeah.
And real quick, I know the last time we were down there, I mean, we story with my parents and just the whole group, Mike and I, it was just one train wreck after another going down to San Antonio, starting with the new news about Boykin, his little bar brawl. So that was the only silver lining was, of course, that huge, massive comeback and the chances of almost having a Disney movie, which I was super excited about. But anyway, since we've been down there, they've actually put in $60 million worth of improvements into the Alamo Bowl. So hopefully concession stands will be open upstairs on the second deck, and a lot of other things will be better than it was the first time we were there. They also put in a couple beer gardens with craft beer and widened the concourses, put in new lighting. So it should be a much better experience.
You had Wes at craft beer.
Craft beer, exactly. So,
yeah,
should be much better.
That's excellent news because that the stadium really needed a little upgrading and some help.
It was bad.
Now,
I don't know if 60 million was enough.
Cooperate this time and not rain like cats and dogs like it did the last time.
Yeah.
It should be good weather.
Was terrible.
It should be good weather for the game. But then again, it's indoors, so it really doesn't matter once you get
Yeah. But the tailgating's outdoors, and that's what got messed up. Was
Well, and even though that it did kind of get rained up and get messed up, they did a really good job of bringing in all sorts of vendors last time.
Yeah, they did.
They did a fantastic job. I mean, I loved walking around just talking to people, even if it wasn't the rain. They had
Craft beer
vendors. Yeah, they had
stands.
craft beer. They had whiskey distillers. They had all sorts of local San Antonio fare. I mean, it was a really, really good group of vendors out there for tailgating. It's just unfortunate that it rained.
Yeah.
And if you're going down there, you need a good place to recommendation for a good margarita down there. I got you covered on that one. So you let me know.
Go ahead and go to the Alamo Bowl website or KillerFrogs website, because they list out a bunch of events, and one that I would definitely recommend is the and it's with both teams. So their cheerleaders and band and all their players and coaches and families, and so will we. And I'm telling you, it was
what event was that, Ryan? You kind of
highlight.
glitched when you said it.
Oh, it's called the Prime Sport Kickoff Luncheon.
Oh, okay.
You have to go to the Alamo Bowl website to register for it, and you let them know that you're with the TCU side, and they'll seat you on the TCU side. And it was a really, really neat experience. It's kind of like when you go back to baseball. Whenever we go to the World Series, it's so fun to mingle with the other teams, and so being in one room for that event and seeing the players up close and the coaches and listening to them talk is pretty cool.
Well, one thing I've learned about San Antonio, because I've been going down there for 20 plus years, I've got a lot of business down in San Antonio. That city gets in and supports these events, and it's like Omaha and the College World Series. The whole city gets into the College World Series, and the same thing holds true with the Alamo Bowl, any kind of event held down there. The city gets into it, and that makes it more fun because everywhere you go, people will say, "Welcome to San Antonio. Thanks for coming down. Hope you have a good time." And go, and they will be go. You'll see a lot of the frog being thrown at us, so they'll be behind us, and that'll make it even better.
Well, my wife's family is all from San Antonio, so we're going to go down there. Oh yeah, we're already set up, so we're good. But yeah, San Antonio. The thing about San Antonio is that that's a city that really should get an NFL franchise because they love football. They want football. In fact, when New Orleans got displaced, they actually played out of San Antonio, and they were hoping for a very long time that the city would get behind and do all those renovations up front and try to lure New Orleans to kind of stay in San Antonio. So this is an area where you've got a lot of football fans, and it was almost like. I made mention to you, Wes, last time we were down there, and we got to see just all the people from San Antonio that filled up the Alamo Bowl just wearing purple. Yeah. And it reminded me like El Paso during the Sun Bowl. Yeah. I mean, that was a game against USC where by all rights, we probably should have been outnumbered by the number of fans.
Sure.
But it was almost like the entire city of El Paso just showed up wearing purple.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing for the Alamo Bowl. And those guys – they're going to show up and they're going to support the Frogs. So
they get into it. It's a sports crazy town. It's amazing to me. There was a time when the Cowboys would go down there doing their preseason workouts and spend them at the Alamo Dome, and they charged $10 a head to go in there and watch them work out. And they filled up the stadium. You got 65,000 people in there watching a stinking practice, and the same. The Spurs down there pack the house every time. It's a Spur crazy city, but they've won a couple of championships, but they get behind their sports down there very, very well. And I love going to San Antonio just because it's a great city. But man, I tell you what, it's a great place for a sports franchise or sports team, and we're going to be their favorites, and that's going to make it even more special for us.
Yeah, and it's only a 4.5-hour drive from Fort Worth, so.
Hour and a half for me, pal.
Yeah. Well,
stop at Buc-ee's.
And Buc-ee's.
Yeah, you can stop at both Buc-ee's on the way down. You can do the one in Temple and one outside of San Marcos or whatever it is.
Well, I'll do the one in San Marcos because I don't want to have to backtrack and go to Temple.
Yeah, well, nobody forced you to move down to Georgetown.
I know it.
At least you don't have to drive through Waco like all of us.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
So,
that's a good thing.
But we'll all stop at the check stop on the way down and enjoy ourselves before we have to pass through Waco.
That's another good one.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, speaking of pastries, I do want to mention this. If you're going to go down to San Antonio and you're going to pick up breakfast before the game, I highly recommend going over to Lulu's Cafe, which is just right near downtown. if you've ever seen like the Food Network, their Food Channel rather, they've kind of I don't know, they had a show, Man versus Food, I think, went there. They have the biggest cinnamon roll you have ever seen.
It's like 3 pounds.
Yeah, it's like the size of your head. So and it's cheap. It's like I think last time we were there it was like $12 or $15. It's really inexpensive. But if you go, bring a lot of people, because even with, we had like 10 people around our table and we couldn't even finish it. I mean, it's fantastic.
I've seen that thing.
Yeah,
and it's just incredible to see a 3-pound cinnamon roll come out of the oven.
Yeah.
And it's really good too. But I love going down. I mean, I'll just talk about San Antonio on Broadway Street, which is just a little west of, well, it runs through downtown, but there's a great restaurant called Soluna, and it's the best margaritas in town. I'm telling you, go there, get wasted, have some good Mexican food, because I love it in Soluna. In fact, I may have to go down there and have a couple just for old time's sake.
Go down there before the game. Why don't you give us a review?
Definitely.
Ahead of time. Well, the bowl game is going to look good. It's December 28th. Get your tickets now. If you can, get them through the box office. I know a lot of people nowadays, they do it through StubHub, but it is important that we try to, that goes through the ticket office. So check with them. If you haven't received your emails about them, I think most of them went out today. I'll have to check, but I think most of them went out today. So check that. If you haven't gotten your email, of course, go to KillerFrogs and go buy your tickets there, at least before you go to StubHub, because we got to support the ticket office through TCU. But it's going to be a fun game against Stanford. I hope everybody's looking forward to this one. And like I said, this is an opportunity for Frogs to kind of go out on a high note against a really good team before we call it a season.
Hear, hear.
Yep. No doubt.
Let's move on to recruiting. And Hunter, you got some breaking news for us, don't you?
We do have some breaking news. So TCU about an hour ago had a commitment from a JUCO tight end. It looks like he's a 3-for-3 guy, which means he's got 3 seasons to play 3. He played at Fork Union Military before, or he was at one of the military schools 2 years ago, and then this year he is at a JUCO, Northwest Mississippi, which is in the same conference as the one that's on Netflix, The Last Chance U. They're in that whole conference. So he actually could be on the show. I don't know, playing against them. But his name is Pro Wells. He's pretty much a receiving tight end. He's about 6'5", 240. But watched him on film. He only played 1 year of high school football. That was his first year, it looks like. So, I mean, he's very young to the game. It just from everything you see, kind of limited as far as his football knowledge. But he catches everything. Looks like a basketball player out there. They kind of just throw it up to him, and he's kind of that big, rangy tight end that may not be the biggest, fastest guy, but if you put it around him, he's going to catch it, and he kind of just boxes everyone out. So could be a good get for TCU. Looks like we're hoping to I guess Cumby's kind of wanting to get a tight end like OU's got, and he had at Tech with Jay Samaro a couple years ago. So that's kind of what I'm seeing from him.
There are lessons to learn from that. Yeah, so I'd love to have a big tight end that can catch.
Yeah, and I mean, pretty much his whole film is him out on the slot, or
I think we lost Dever
as a slot or an H-back, and so he's going to be impressive. I think he could do a little bit of damage for us.
Is he pretty fast?
He's fast. Definitely not a burner by any means, but he looks like he gets open pretty well. He's quick, and then he can make catches away from his body with guys on him. So he's a pretty good possession receiver, it looks like.
So you throw it up there. It's kind of like Josh Jackson. He'll just go up and get it.
Mm-hmm. And then, he uses his body well. He kind of blocks out those guys. He's a little bit of a mismatch because he's faster than the linebackers, but a lot bigger than the tight end, than the DBs.
Excellent.
It'd be nice to have a bigger receiver in the slot.
Definitely.
Across the middle rather than, White and Turpin out there. Sometimes I kind of feel a little scared having those guys. Even Slanina, he took some massive hits early in his career.
For sure.
The thing is that this year, I'm not picking on Kenny Hill, but Desmond White's what, 5'8", 5'9"?
maybe.
And it's easy to overthrow him, which Kenny did yesterday, but you can't overthrow a 6'5". Well, you can, but
A lot
you know,
harder.
got 6'5" who can jump, can go up and get the darn ball. That's one thing Desmond can't really do.
Well, and you see this guy, and I just think he could be one of those guys on 3rd and 5. You would not feel any problem going and, hey, throwing it 6 yards and letting him just catch, letting him box someone out and go on down the road with your drive. So
beautiful.
He looks pretty good. I'm excited about him. We're his biggest offer by far at this moment. Actually, he's not even on any of the recruiting stuff as a JUCO guy. I mean, he's kind of an unknown. He took his trip with us against Baylor when we played Baylor. And then so he's recruited. I mean, he's committed like a week after. So he was impressed.
Do we know who recruited?
I do not. I mean, literally, there's like nothing. I'm guessing Coach Modkins because he tweeted the "Who Next" hashtag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's all we're going on. Really, he's kind of an unknown, and it's. I mean, I think we got a kind of diamond in the rough here. And then we also.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go.
No, I was going to say, yeah, it sounds like that because I mean, if you. Guy has no offers, he's off everybody's radar, then all of a sudden we offer a tight end because that's not typically one of those kind of positions that we hear that we gotta go after. You got to think like what you said earlier. Sounds like Cumbie really wants to have this tight end spot kind of filled, and it sounds like he found a guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's so underused. I just basically looked up his name and it came up as a bunch of basketball videos of him just dunking over a bunch of people. So I mean, the athleticism's there. Think he's learning to play football, which look at all the really good tight ends in the NFL right now. They're all basketball guys. So
yeah, well, who was the guy who played for or does play for San Diego?
Antonio Gates. He was the first
Antonio
one.
Gates. There you go.
There's Jimmy Graham who's come from that. There's a lot of guys. So
yeah,
good pedigree.
Yep, could be really good. And then we also offered a couple guys this year who are seniors. So they're 2018 graduates. So we've just offered them this past week, which is, I'm guessing we're thinking we've got a late shot on a couple of these guys, or I'm really not sure why we offered them so late. One of them is Derek Turner. He's a safety from Georgia, but he's got offers from Auburn, K-State, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and then we offered him last week. And so he's a 3-star safety. He's not been committed anywhere. And then we offered a 3-star running back who's a tech commit last week as well. And then he's been crystal balled to us 3 or 4 times. They're saying he's looking like it's a TCU guy. He plays on the same select 7-on-7 team as a lot of our Louisiana commits. So looks like he played with Justin Rogers the past couple of years. So there's some familiarity with them, So we'll see what he does. He's also the fastest shuttle time in the nation at 3.82. Wow. So he's quick.
Hunter, quick. We got a signing date in 17 days. You see any surprises coming along?
Really? If we know those surprises, if I knew them, I would be making a lot of money doing something because these guys, if anything, they're probably silent commits. But really, I think we're all waiting on the same couple guys, Terrace Marshall, Jalen Waddell. There's just a couple, 3 or 4 guys who are looking at 4 or 5 schools right now who TCU just happens to be one of them. And really it could go up anywhere at this point because most of them have Texas A&M in their top 5. Most of them have Florida State. So really it's just up in the air.
Are you seeing any uptick from Jimbo Fisher signing it or going to A&M or?
Actually, they lost a couple of recruits. They lost.
Did they?
They lost a 5-star DB, I believe. And I mean, they're going to lose a couple guys. Really, I think some of the recruits said that, they didn't like how they were not told about it from previous staff and stuff like that, just stuff on Twitter. So you can only put so much into it. But, they've actually lost a couple of recruits. So I could see some guys falling out and, maybe falling to some different teams.
Interesting.
Well, they'll probably grab some, lose some. That's what's going to happen with all this coaching carousel. But I want to go back to the Hunter saying, we offered a couple of guys late. I think what starts happening is, first of all, I think it says something about our brand of football. I think kids are, we're on the radar now of kids nationally wanting to come here. And I think what happens is, like Hunter said, they're out there playing 7-on-7, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, man, hey, you need to tell them, I'm interested. Hey, man, you need to come to TCU. All of a sudden, somebody that TCU really wasn't thinking of, maybe they don't really recruit that area real strong, or or they thought they were pretty solid somewhere, or it could be several different reasons. But all of a sudden in today's social media and stuff like that, all of a sudden they get wind that, hey, there's a kid out there that y'all aren't doing that everybody's looking at, and he really likes you. He's one of my buddies. He plays on my. I think that happens a lot now, because I mean, back in my day, which was a long time ago, but back in my day, you didn't have all the social media, you didn't have all the football camps, you didn't have all that stuff.
Hey, Dover, how did they do recruiting with carrier pigeons?
I know, you're exactly right. I can tell you a couple. Never mind, I'm not going to. But anyway,
I don't have too much sympathy for your day, pal. Let me tell you what.
Yeah, but in today's time, I mean, with social media and everything, I mean, these guys go to school knowing so many of the guys that they're either come to play with, or even the ones on the other teams. I mean, it's just a big ball. I mean, they all know. It's kind of like the coaches here carousel. Everybody says, well, everybody knows all the coaches know each other. It's a big old fraternity. Well, it's almost like the players are becoming that now a lot more, because of all the camps and stuff like that they all go to together. They get to talking with each other. They know each other. I mean, and I think that's what's happening. And I think as our brand grows, which it's definitely growing, people are like, hey, man, I'd love to go to TCU. And all of a sudden they get a couple that fall into their lap. And I think that's starting to happen.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, you got to think this past week was probably the most unprecedented week in TCU football history as far as recruiting. I mean, or TCU football. We go and we're playing Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship for possibly a spot at the playoff, definitely a chance in the New Year's Six. So that's big. Then you also get your quarterback recruit gets his 5th star, and one of your wide receiver recruits gets taken he gets picked for the Under Armour All-American game. So, I mean, if you would have said that 10 years ago in TCU football, everyone would have laughed at you. Like, a 5-star quarterback and an Under Armour All-American, and they're not the same guy. So, I mean, it's a big time for TCU recruiting. It's pretty awesome that there are these guys who want to come from everywhere. And sure, there's definitely a fraternity of people. I know it started – I know a lot of players who I went to camps with and stuff like that, but that was before even social media and everything else. So now these kids, they talk every day, and they have met each other in person twice, but they're on Twitter together, they're on everything together, and they all talk to each other for sure. And I think just as we start getting more higher profile guys, it just becomes easier for them to come with those other guys who are committed. We've got Justin Rogers, you've got Atanza Bonger. They're both guys who went to the opening, which is the top 350 players in the nation. Justin Rogers was part of the Elite 11 this year. I mean, there's just guys who have been part of these really big recruiting things, and they're coming to TCU now.
But one thing I will say about Patterson, he don't really care still 3-star, 2-star. I mean, but he goes and gets players that he thinks going to fit our system. And don't get me wrong. If you get a 4 or 5-star, I mean, you can't help but be excited. But he's one of the best people I know at going and finding 2 and 3-star and making them a 4 or 5-star when it's all said and done. So I love it that I don't think they don't get so focused on that they lose who they are. They get they're starting to get more of those players. But they go find hard-nosed football players that like to play football and to go fit in our system.
Yep.
And you got to have that, because you look at Texas all these years. I mean, they're in the top 5, 10 recruiting, 2, 3, 1. They got 5 stars, 4 stars walking around everywhere. And it doesn't really do any good if you can't get them to play for you. I mean, and stuff. And so,
the old saying, that Texas wins the national championship every February, and that may have been true as recruiting goes. But once they get them on the field, they don't develop them. They don't know better when they leave than they were when they got there. And and that's something that Patterson can claim. You come here, you're a better player when you leave than you were when you got here.
Yep.
And that's been proven time and time again.
Well,
and,
if you put in the effort, and,
if you put it in,
you
you
know,
do the work. You do the work. You follow the plan. You're going to be a better player.
Well,
you
let me
may
tell-
not go to the next level, but you're going to be a better college player. You'll be a better person for it. And
you'll have a better degree.
I mean, Patterson's the best at that. Absolutely
Well, let me
the
tell
best.
you, if you don't put in the work, you're going to have a miserable 5 years or 4 years.
Yeah. You won't play.
I'm with you guys about that. And, you look at Texas.
Pay
Yes.
off and this and that. But, that's just the truth about it. I mean, if you're not working and there becomes a point in time when they quit coaching you. I used to call it quit yelling at you, but quit coaching you. And then that's the worst thing that ever happens to you. When you become a nobody, that means that they've already went right on around you, and they're not even concerned about developing you anymore because you ain't bought into the program.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yep. Well, and then I look at a big recruiting class like Texas. They're ranked number 2 in the country. They're ranked number 1 in the Big 12, of course, and they have 2 offensive linemen in this class. Well, they're losing one to the draft next year for sure. And I'm pretty sure we didn't see any capable backups happening for them this year. So, I mean, yeah, you can recruit great skill positions and stuff all you want. And great, they've got a bunch of 5 stars, but it seems like they're recruiting for a star number rather than getting some guys who could actually come in and help their football team right away.
Well, these star systems are for fans.
Exactly.
They really are.
And it has nothing to do. Coaches don't use that star system. They have their own evaluations. If the coaches are out there, if Gary Patterson using the star system to recruit his close players, I would be totally disappointed. And if he was, we never would have gotten guys like Andy Dalton or LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yep.
Because they weren't highly rated.
You're exactly right.
Yeah, and all these sites that have done the star system, that's great. They've got a great little marketing gimmick going, but it's meaningless. I mean, and we can go down any number of lists and find these top-rated guys and put them on a list and charge $3 a month for it, or $10 a month. Whoop-de-doo. It's about evaluation and how they fit in your system and personality and character. And are they going to produce for the school, or are they going to be the kind of guy you want out there representing you? And I think that's what Patterson does, and he's really good at it.
Yeah. And I think it's funny because I talked to 2 or 3 or 4 of the players, from time to time, and it's funny how they talk. It's not about. I don't think they hardly ever mention Coach Patterson or this, because this is what he does. He's got them guys talking about themselves. Hey, we expect, he's like, we have a standard here, and it's our job as upperclassmen to make sure, everybody's at the same standard and they're working hard and blah, blah, blah. And they built a culture. He's built that culture here now. And not every once in a while it can go awry, and he has to bring it back on track. But that, like I said, I was always worried about not that we could get the 4 or 5 star, but how they fit with the way Patterson coaches and stuff like that. And it seems to me like that once you get here, between Patterson / the other players, you fit the program, or it's probably going to be a long deal. But I mean, I just think that they get you to buy into the program.
Yeah, if they're a prima donna, they're not going to make it.
Nope, not at all.
I think
And
if
if
they're
you look
prima
at
donna, they're
stars-
not getting offered.
Yeah, if you look at stars, if Ben Banigou was a 4-star or 5-star player coming out of high school, he wouldn't have been at Louisiana Monroe.
That's right.
Yep.
And so, here's a guy, I don't know how many stars he has. It doesn't even matter. He came here. He's a great player. I'm glad we got him. But you know what? He's not every great college player is a 4 or 5-star player. A lot of the 2 and 3-star guys that are absolutely great if they fit in your system. They're coachable. They're good people. And I think guys like Banigou are certainly that.
Yeah.
They're the underdogs, and so they're always fighting to win, which is totally how TCU is. That's the personality of our team.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think, we have gotten the a very good blend the past couple of years where we've started getting some of those guys who are highly ranked, but they are guys who fit into our system very well. They're hard-nosed players. They're very much Coach Patterson guys, because if you're not, you're just not going to make it in this football program.
No,
it takes I love Coach Patterson, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of easier places to go play college football than at TCU, where you're not held accountable, this and that. You're just not held to the standard that you're held at TCU. And so
you don't have to go any further than Kenny Hill to prove exactly what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because if you take a look at Kenny Hill coming out of A&M, CDC and Patterson sat down with him and said, if you're going to play at TCU, here's what you have to do before you even step foot on the field.
Yep.
And they held him accountable to that. And to Kenny's credit, he did everything he was asked to do and more. And he is, as far as I'm concerned, that Aggie stink has gone off of him. He's a frog for life. And he did an unbelievable job. And it just proves what you were saying about the culture and what Patterson wants out of his team. And he sees these guys that can fit. And I honestly believe Hill fits exactly the kind of mold player that he wants. And, you can't say anything more about the culture and that frog fam that we've kind of created here. And what is drawing a lot of those players in is the consistency, the family atmosphere, the locker room atmosphere, and the way that these guys come here. And no matter how highly touted they are by, stars or ranking systems, that they want to work and they want to be a part of something that they see as being positive.
Oh, I thought they were coming here because of my magnetic personality.
Well, that's second on the list, Wes.
Well, I just think they got it all going on. Coaches, players, recruits. Right now, it's just a great time to be a Horned Frog. I'll still say that. I mean, like we talked about the first year to now, we're sitting here at the end of the year. We're 10-3. We're in the Big 12 championship game. Didn't go like we wanted it, but at the first year, I think all of us have been happy if we were here. I just think when you look at Patterson, we do building blocks almost. This is a building block for us. I mean, I believe it is. I believe our kids, I believe he'll – he said he's proud of the way the kids played and this and that, and I think he will. He is. But at the same time, I think it'll be a teaching lesson for him too. It's a teaching lesson for him. It's a teaching lesson for the kids, and I think we got a very good coaching staff too. I think the all around everything right now at TCU, I'm very happy with everything.
Yeah, here's the thing. You said teaching lesson. The one thing interesting about Gary Patterson is he won't have to learn the same lesson twice.
Nope.
He'll get it done, and whatever corrections need to be made, he'll make them.
Yep.
And, I know we were going to talk about this a little bit later as well, and we might want to segue into it now. It's just nice that we have a coach with 17 years experience, 18 years now experience. We don't have to worry about him going anywhere every year.
No.
Look at all these other schools that are just grasping for air right now.
Tennessee.
They can't do anything right. They offered Gundy double his money in the Big 12, and he said no. I mean, it must really, really be tough to be a football coach or be a football fan of one of those schools that just can't seem to get it right. And
you mentioned Tennessee. I mean, I don't want to get too far off course here, but I have enjoyed. I love footballscoop.com this time of the year because it's entertaining to see where all these guys are going. But this year particularly, you've got some stuff that I just think is absolutely crazy. Tennessee, I mean, there's not much more you can say about it. It's
they got him fired.
They fired
their
athletic director, put him on suspension. They're trying to figure what, because they did that because if they fired him for cause, they wouldn't owe him any money on a buyout. They fired him for convenience. They owe him like $170,000 a month. So now they've suspended him and trying to figure out if they can fire him for cause. Then in the meantime, they've hired their ex-coach who they fired, 6 or 7 years ago, as their athletic director.
Yep.
Now,
the coach who was there before Butch Jones got hired.
Yeah, so. And then we know that Greg Schiano, they offered him a job and then withdrew it, that's a lawsuit getting ready to happen because he signed a letter of understanding with them. The AD signed a letter of understanding. The chancellor did not. They might have offered Gundy. God knows who they've offered. They may have offered Hunter for all I know, but they
I will say this
Hunter
now.
turned down $11 million to Tennessee.
I'm withdrawing my name from the Tennessee head coaching search. So just add one more to the list.
But then, they reported now Phil Fulmer's or Les Miles has contacted him about the job. But then you go to somebody like Arizona State who fired Todd Graham, and they're trying to offer a guy who hadn't coached in 10 years, Herm Edwards.
And who hasn't coached college in longer than that.
Yeah, he hadn't coached college. He wasn't even a successful pro coach. He's just been an ESPN analyst. And they've looked at some other guys who are kind of the usual list of suspects this year. I guess Pep Hamilton, the offensive coordinator of Michigan's mentioned a few times, and a couple of guys like that. At first you heard Kevin Sumlin's name being mentioned. Well, it'd been a pretty good choice, but now they look like he may take the UCF job. It's been a bizarre year.
It has. I don't think we've ever seen this many jobs be open, this many big jobs be open all at once.
Yeah,
so it's just been really interesting because it could change a lot of things, really, because there's been, I think, 18 head coaching spots open up this year, and only 10 of them have been filled. But there's been, as you're sitting on your third week being the Tennessee fan base, what do you think going forward?
The Tennessee fan base is the reason they don't have Greg Schiano. I mean,
exactly.
That's extraordinary to me because this is the first time I've ever known that Twitter has controlled a coaching hire.
Exactly.
And that's not a good thing, folks. So you hire these athletic directors to make these decisions and vet these coaches and hire them, and you pay them a lot of money to do so. And then
didn't they suspend the athletic director at Tennessee?
Yeah. He was the one who initially took away the job, but then also he's the one who couldn't find anyone else, so now he's been suspended and basically fired.
Yeah.
That's
insane.
So they're just trying to decide how he's fired, whether it's for cause or convenience. Because it's
and you've got only a couple weeks before the early signing date. So I mean, this is this stuff pushes into next week. This is going to start killing your recruiting class
for sure.
Maybe they get you freeze.
That's why I think you saw that Jimbo Fisher took the job a week early. He originally it was said, he's going to coach the game this next week, finish out the year at least. Well, I think they've started figuring out if they didn't do something quick, then they're going to lose money, recruits, this and that. So you've just almost got to do this stuff with only 3 more weeks left until signing day.
And Jimbo Fisher is another interesting story. He A&M owed Kevin Sumlin $10.4 million they had to pay in 60 days. They gave Jimbo Fisher 10 years at $7.5 million each, which is the most expensive contract ever in the history of college football. So some of the assistants that Kevin Sumlin had guaranteed contracts. So there's a buyout involved with them. Not a lot, but it's there. Then you probably have a pretty big pool of cash for Fisher to hire assistants. I think you're approaching $100 million on this coaching change by the time it's all said and done. And that's just outrageous. Leave it to an Aggie to go out and do something incredibly stupid like that. But,
I think the breaking news there is there's a lot of money in sheep.
I look at it this way too. If I'm Jimbo Fisher, he is coached. He's from the Nick Saban coaching tree, you would say. He coached with him at LSU,
right.
And was with him maybe somewhere before that. But he coached under Nick Saban, as a lot of really good coaches have.
Sure.
But he's going from. Really, I don't see what they're expecting next year. They said their whole deal was they want to compete for national championships and conference championships. But Jimbo starts out next year. 2 of his first 4 games are against Clemson and Alabama. They have a 2-year contract with Clemson starting next year. So he gets out of the ACC and has to play the best team from there immediately. And then he's still got to play Bama and LSU and any of the other. Bama, LSU, Auburn, Gus Malzahn just got extended today there, so they've got a lot of guys coming back. So you look at it and you go, man, someone averaged about 8 wins there. So are they expecting him to win 10? Even if he wins 10, he probably doesn't win the conference championship. And then what do you do 5 years from now? Do you fire him and pay him $30 million to buy him out? Or, so it's just all kind of crazy to me.
Honey, they're Aggies. Anything could happen.
Well,
I think except for winning.
I tell you what's crazy is that, Tennessee at one time, that was a good job. That was a really good job to have.
Oh.
And now people won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Coaches won't. They don't, it's just interesting. Hey, A&M job. I mean, come on now. I mean, I'm not saying everybody knows I'm not an Aggie fan at all. But surely you don't have to go overpay to go get you a coach. But that's, it just, I tell you what it does. It shows you how much money, how much everything's involved in college football. Because when you get that desperate, they're desperate times. When you go pay somebody like you just paid Jimbo Fisher, it should, if I guess they got the money, that's fine. But, I think Patterson, that's one of the things I love about Patterson, because I think he has thought about that too. Francione, he thought he hit the lottery when he left TCU, and it did not fare very well for him. When you go get those jobs like that, and I think, it's just like the Texas job. They're so unrealistic in their things. You can't even get it. Your coach don't even get a chance to really. He better win quick, and if he doesn't, he doesn't even get to go a full 4 years almost, or 5 years recruiting his own players before he's gone. It's gotten crazy lately with all that.
And then you also see, I think A&M basically negotiated against themselves, because there was only one number you heard the whole time, and that was 10 years, $75 million. But from the looks of it, Jimbo was ready to get out of Florida State. And, they kind of just said, hey, if you want to go, see ya. Which, this guy has won a national championship, and I think he's a good coach. But I don't know that anyone is worth $75 million except save Nick Saban. That's maybe the only person who I'm paying that much money, and that's because he's got a $10 million contract. So
and 4 national championships.
Exactly, and what he's done. So you already know the result. But Jimbo, with a quarterback not named Jameis Winston, they've been a mediocre team.
And there's no crabs in College Station, so nobody can go out and stuff them down their pants.
Well, they are, but they're frozen at the Albertsons. You just you
Or
don't
not
have to
the
stuff
kind
those
you
down
want-
your pants.
or not the kind of crab
really,
we get at the grocery store. But that's another.
That's neither here nor there.
You didn't hear me
Different
say
kind
that,
of
Ryan. I'm
crabs.
sorry.
The tech job didn't come open this year, Wes.
Oh wait.
Oh, that joke
Hey,
never
I'm-
gets old. Anyway, I was that it on the coaching carousel? Do you guys have any other updates?
That's it.
We'll end with crabs. And on that note,
Wait,
it is
What you
Governor?
got?
I just have to say, Mike's not going to love me, but isn't karma? Oh, isn't it nice?
Oh
to
my
see
gosh.
it come back
wait,
around?
what are you talking about, Dubber? I don't know what you're referring to.
All I got to say is, isn't it nice to see them guys up there with the little marijuana sticker on their helmet? Isn't it nice? Isn't it
I
now?
have to tell y'all this.
It,
So after the game, our championship game on Saturday, Mike, if y'all don't know, he is from Ohio, so his whole family, everybody, which is normal.
Tell him sorry about that.
A huge Ohio State fan. However, I am not, and he feels just because he's a TCU fan that I should automatically be an Ohio State fan.
How dare
I keep
you?
reminding him that he.
Why don't you tell
He
him that
lives
bandwagon's full, Ryan? Tell him.
Yeah, I was like, I'm an Alabama fan because my family's from Alabama, and I grew up loving Alabama, and I'm a TCU fan first. And so I said, I'm so sorry that I just won't ever be an Ohio State fan. And so he, he takes it a little personally, but so he said, well, we're going to go watch the Ohio State game. So we did, and it was super fun. I went with a TCU grad and her boyfriend, and we, he's a huge Ohio State fan. We had so much fun, but I was seriously injury to insult. I had to go sit in a room with these and they're crazy fun. Ohio State fans in Fort Worth, when they were winning their championship game, and I thought, just when you think it can't get worse, you have to sit surrounded by Buckeyes, and I have to look at Brutus the whole night. So anyway, it was so today, because Mike leaned over to me and he said, Ryan, you do know if we win the championship that we're in for the in for the playoffs, because that's what the news was reporting. And I looked at him and I was like, you do know this is why we all find Ohio State fans so annoying. And so today, when they put Alabama in and not Ohio State, I just sat back. I was so amused. I just sat back and listened to him. And I was like, you know who you sound like? You sound like me. It's the way I talk when we get screwed every year. And I said, welcome to our world, buddy. The shoe is finally on the other foot. You finally know what it feels like.
I guess Ohio State always thought they were the most powerful football team in the nation. They figured out they're not the most powerful. They might be almost the most powerful, but their swelled heads have to come down a little bit because they're at least number 2. Because if that's anybody else, I'd probably say Ohio State's probably in. Yeah. But don't get me wrong, we're not going to slap Alabama. Hey, Alabama lost one time, and all of a sudden I was like, all these people making these predictions, and all of a sudden, whap, they put Alabama back in. I don't love Alabama, but I loved it today.
Well, I loved it only because they made the case for TCU 2014 today.
Yeah, it sure did.
Because Alabama had a worse strength of schedule.
Yeah.
Had one loss to a ranked team. And pretty much did exactly what TCU did in 2014, except TCU 2014 had a better strength of schedule.
Yeah, we were 3 points away from being undefeated, having a perfect schedule, perfect
I think
year.
Ohio State really figured out that they like being a blue blood, except when there's one blue blood who's bigger than you, and they figured that out real quick. Because that's really what it came down to in my eyes. Because, Bama, I'm not saying Bama's not a good team, because obviously they are.
Oh, they are.
But, when you play Mercer week 11 and this and that, they're the only school to play 2 FCS teams to be in. They're the only, there's a lot of things that Bama particularly is weaker than every other team in the Final Four, but they're still Bama. And that's, if you're doing rankings based on a blind ranking without looking at the team name, you probably don't pick them. But
no,
that is the committee bias. We've seen it every year, and it's been different every year. And that's why the only thing that's been the same is the bigger school pretty much gets in if it's between two. And so, I think
if Ohio State fans are really this pissed off about it, they can start lobbying for an 18 playoff.
Exactly.
Yeah, but until they do that, I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, eventually that's what's going to happen. These bigger schools are going to get upset that they get, treated not as good as they think they should. How TCU and some of the other smaller schools get treated every year. And then they're going to, that'll be whenever they decide to mix it up, since, on the committee, they've got the Ohio State athletic director and these schools who are in the playoff, their ADs are on the board. So I think it'll happen. Just could be a couple years.
Well, here's hoping, because it needs to happen. You need to have a situation where all conference champions get an automatic buy-in.
Yep.
Period. And when you have Alabama without their precious 13th data point and with a poor strength of schedule, make it when conference champions are left out, then finally maybe we can, when somebody else's ox gets gored, finally we can start seeing some movement on that. But
gored ox.
Until then, it's still invitational. It's not a playoff.
Yep.
So I'm going to keep my guns on that.
I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they keep it at 4 or 8 or whatever. I'm not even going to try to speculate. All I am is happy of what happened this year. I just, they needed to get a little taste of it. And they finally got a little taste of it this year. So
it was sweet.
Yeah. Well, last year they got in doing the same thing. They didn't win they weren't the conference champion, and they slid right on in. So it happened to them. So could have happened to a better group of guys. Hey, we love Mike though. Still, tell him we love Mike. You know.
Yeah, Mike's okay.
Mike's
He's still
okay.
a good guy.
I think I'm in trouble.
Has he been listening to all this? You didn't warn us.
Oh yeah, he's just right there. We're gonna go to we're coming back from the Alamo Bowl and straight to the Cotton Bowl. So I'll be there watching. I'll even root for him for that game.
You're wearing purple to that game, right?
Of course, yes, of course.
Just checking. Just want to make sure.
I can't ever not be a walking billboard for TCU.
There you go. Good for you. All right. Well, that takes us to the end of the podcast, which means it is time for player or coach of the week. You guys know how this works at this point. Each one of the members of the panel will pick their player or coach of the week. Doesn't have to be football based. And today we're going to start off with Dubber.
I'm going to pick Coach Jamie Dixon. I went and watched, finally got to go over and watch the basketball game the other day. They're in the top 25. They're playing very well. He's got the team going in the direction. He's got them believing that they're supposed to be there. And, just what he's done with the basketball program is remarkable. But, what he's done starting out this season, he's picked up where he left off. So not to go first time I went away from football, but I just felt like, wanted to go and give a shout out to basketball.
Excellent. All right, Wes, who do you got? Player or coach of the week?
Well, Dubber stole my thunder. I'm going to go with Jamie Dixon, and I'm going to just whatever Dubber said, double it to me because that's exactly how I feel. Give it to Coach Dixon. TCU basketball's on the right track, which has been a long time coming, but we're heading that way, and got some big games this week. SMU, and then I think Nevada, and then those both good programs. SMU's a solid program. They're not anymore. They're not the whipping boys in basketball, at least, any longer. So, let's get out there and support them. But yeah, Coach Dixon's got my vote for this week.
Yeah, it's really nice to kind of see him back in the top 25. That's really, really good this early in the season. All right, Ryan, who do you got? Player or coach of the week?
Well, I'll change it up just a little bit. I actually went to my first women's basketball game this week. And if you listen to the short podcast right before the bowl game, we talked about it a little bit, but I took a half day off from work and ran up there for a little while. And that was so much fun. I did not grow up really being a huge basketball fan, but I went to this game and I love it. I will go back to as many as my schedule will allow for. Reagan Peebly is just, we talk about her almost every week. She's just, I don't know, she's got that it factor. She's the type of person that walks into a room and you just immediately like her no matter, she doesn't even say anything. And just watching her coach her girls and the way the team responds to her, just their body language, it's a sight. So I hope that everybody can at least, if you've never been to a game, make it a priority to go to at least one, and then make it a priority to take someone with you that hasn't been either. And let's build that women's program. TCU, I'm not sure which department is in charge of this, but it's some sort of marketing or promotions, brought in a lot of the area schools for Kids Day. I'm not kidding. TCU is going to be the most popular college in Texas one day if they keep this up, because those kids are going to grow up loving at a very young age. And I didn't have that. I grew up around here, and I barely even knew TCU was around until I got into junior high and high school. So good job, TCU. Good job, Reagan.
Yeah, it was a great victory against Alabama.
Yeah, sure was.
Yeah, it was a little tight there at halftime, and they came away in the second half, and it just looked.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Hunter, coach or player of the week?
I'm going Desmond Bain. He had 18 points against Yale, and now our TCU men's basketball team is leading the nation with 13 straight wins. So, number 23 in the country. Moving forward.
I love it. I'm going to go a different sport as well, but I'm going to give it to Jill Kramer and the girls volleyball team. I don't know if you guys have been following this, but we talked a little bit about this towards the end of the season, and they they swept Oklahoma, and it was a really good feeling for them to kind of end on a high note. And then they got invited to the National Invitational Volleyball Championship, the NIVC, and now they're in the Elite Eight. They beat North Texas, and North Texas had like a 29-4 record on the year, so this was fantastic. Wow. And Anna Walsh had 25 kills in that match. Oh. And I think she was the first player of the year to reach 20-plus kills in a match. And it's just they are on fire right now. And I think they're going to be hosting the next couple of rounds at the Rickle, I think this week, December 6th and 7th. I'll have to find out if that's the right date, but I think that's right. I'll put it in the show notes. But kudos to the women's volleyball team. I know the regular season didn't go what they wanted to, but they are tearing it up in the postseason.
That is true, Sean. I've got it right here. It's TCU versus it says Green Bay women's volleyball. Fort Worth, Texas starts at 7. So I had that on my calendar, and I thought their season was over with, so I thought it was a mistake. But now that makes sense. So yeah, everybody get out there and go. Those are fun games to watch, and they're fast.
Yeah, I do.
You're only there a couple hours.
I think this is the first time TCU's ever been in the Elite Eight of the NIVC. So, another good milestone for Joe Kramer, and that's really good to see.
Have we ever been in the NIVC before?
As far as I know, we have, but we never made it. It's basically the volleyball version of the NIT. But as far as I know, we've been there before, but I don't think we've ever gotten past the round of 16. So,
we went to the postseason last year for the first time ever. In volleyball, was that the NI? Was that
that was for the NCAA? That was the NCAA berth.
Okay.
That was the first time we've ever been.
Just looked this up. The NIVC was it started in 1989 and it went to 1995, and then it was remade last year. Was the first year of it again.
Oh, okay.
So actually, last year it was announced. So this is the first year since the reincarnation of it, basically to have a women's NIT tournament.
Well, they're doing a good job. I mean, you got to get out there. If you've never seen a match at the Rickle, it is fast paced, like Ryan was saying. So it's definitely worthwhile. And Jill's got those girls, and Anna Walsh is just electric to watch and play volleyball. So go out there and support them this week too, if you guys get a chance.
Yep.
Great.
All right. And with that, we are done. We want to thank everybody who's listening to us on all the places you can find podcasts. We are on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. We really appreciate your guys' support. And if you are on iTunes, we just go over there and give us a 5-star rating. We really appreciate that. You can find Killer Frogs on all the social media networks. We're on Twitter and Instagram at @killer_frogs. That's @killer_frogs. And you can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/killerfrogs. And of course, you can go online at killerfrogs.com and join us for free and discuss TCU athletics with one of the largest TCU athletic forums on the internet. And with that, we have come to the end of the podcast, and it's the time where we all say,
Go Frogs!
Go Frogs!
See you guys in San Antonio.
Yep.
See ya.
See ya.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Night.